Minutemen visit a Renaissance fair in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. In 1985, in search of a different version, after entering a tent, the party realizes it is a trap. Unfortunately, the variation manages to mind control the group's commander. She attacks her entire squad, and the variation assists by taking out a number of them. The variant drags the commander out of the timeline after he faints. Ms. Minutes questions Loki about the deadline guidelines, but he finds the entire procedure to be quite boring. He swats Ms. Minutes with a magazine after learning that she is real. To alert Loki that he is awake, Mobius grabs him. They meet with Hunter B-15, who summarizes the most recent events for Loki and several Minutemen. Loki remarks that the variant is a weaker version of himself, but Hunter B-15 corrects him, reminding the party that the Loki version is one they have already encountered, may have slightly different features or seem completely different, and has a variety of skills. Mobius jumps in to resume the debriefing of the group. Loki draws attention to the distinction between illusion projection and duplication casting. The explanation was great. Mobius and Loki are on one of the two teams that have been created. Mobius declines Loki's request for a weapon and slips in that a meeting with the Timekeepers is POS. Cybele instead. The team arrives to the scene of the most recent attack. They are surprised that the variant has captured one of the Minutemen, because this is a unique action. Mobius is about to leave the tent when Loki stops him and the others, warning them that they will perish like the Minutemen if they leave. Despite Loki's recognition of the plan, Hunter B-15 is not in the mood to learn his lengthy lesson in plans. She is looking for the missing commander. Loki is aware that if they search for the commander, the variation will attack them because it is what they desire. He desires to search for the version on his own, as well as to be certain that it won't dissolve and to immediately encounter the Timekeepers. They are also in risk. Loki's deception is exposed by Mobius, who immediately orders the timeline to be reset. Well done. Ravana requests a meeting with Mobius to talk about the most recent failed operation. He maintains that having Loki on the missions has given them some insight into Loki, and they can use this knowledge to capture the variant. The Timekeepers are worried about this variation and want Mobius apprehended. Ravana informs him. Also, Mobius only has one more opportunity to meet Loki. Loki gives his nonsense speech outside the office about how he taught Mobius how a Loki thinks. Mobius recognizes this and claims that Loki is actually there to aid them in capturing a more advanced version of himself. He adds that he is aware that Loki is preparing to deceive the Timekeepers and seize control of the TVA. Exactly on the money. Loki is given one final opportunity, which involves doing some labor. He is seated at a desk to review documents on the variant. Loki becomes disinterested in the data as usual, and tries to get information about the TVA's creation, the beginning of time, and the end of time. In response to his request for files that he does have access to, he is given a file about himself. He discovers a clue and a manuscript on the fall of Asgard, which describes the obliteration of the populace. He hastily alerts Mobius to the fact that the variation is hidden amid apocalypses. He notes that as it wouldn't change the timeline in any way, the version might appear before the destruction. Loki suggests that they put his idea to the test, telling Mobius that he will always want to demonstrate that he is correct. The two men are jubilant about what is about to occur in Pompeii. In the year 79 AD, Loki is reminded by Mobius that they shouldn't be there and that they should start out subtly by making bird noises. Loki is unconcerned by this and rushes to the market, where he introduces himself, tells them what is about to happen, and describes his origins. Mobius notices that there was no variation detection from Loki's activity while the volcano erupted. An exuberant Mobius and Loki scour the timeline for comparable catastrophes. When they return to the TVA headquarters, a few hours later, Loki approaches Mobius and inquires about the jet ski magazine, wondering why he would have one if he wasn't going to use it. He challenges Mobius's view of the formation of the Timekeepers. Mobius draws attention to the absurdity of Asgard and its gods. Loki makes the observation that if everything is predetermined, then people lack free will. Then he inquires as to how time will end. Loki finds it dull when Mobius tells him that the timekeepers are peacefully unraveling the end of time. When Loki mentions Mobius referring to him as a young child, Mobius gets an idea from the young boy he saw in the previous episode carrying candies. The two look for calamities that occurred in the years. The candy was available because that is when the variant might have been hiding, in 2050. Loki discovers a hurricane in Alabama. Mobius asks a team to go in search of something. But Ravonna is hesitant to put her faith in Loki. She finally caves in. Ep.2 informs the team on the surroundings and the typical responses of the variation when approached. Additionally, she orders them to kill any Loki. The crew is wet by the downpour as they arrive. Loki uses magic to dry himself off, which Ep.15 disapproves of and forbids him from doing with Mobius. The variation keeps an eye on everything from the security room while starting a reset recharge. Loki and Ep.15 come upon a man buying flowers. When Ep.15 approaches, the variation takes control of her. When Mobius' team discovers the commander, who had been abducted earlier, they begin looking for the variant among a group of shielded individuals. When discussing his plans to overthrow the timekeepers with the variation, Loki makes it clear that he would benefit from having a right-hand man. The variation changes bodies and tells Loki he is not interested in ruling the TVA, declining his offer. The stunned commander tells Mobius and his soldiers that she gave the variation her reset charger and told him where to look for the timekeepers. When the team calls her through radio, Ep.15 awakens. Loki queries the variation about his desires. He then understands that the variation intends to detonate the building, attacking Loki. The variation changes bodies. When Loki asks the variation what he wants from him, they eventually come face to face. This isn't about you. The variation Sophia DiMartina says as she removes her hoodie. Loki is taken aback. Then every reset charger turns off and vanishes. An analyst at the TVA calls in a panic, saying that something just bombed the timeline. Ravonna takes a weapon as she watches many history forks emerge on the screen. To address the issue, numerous teams are dispatched. Loki observes the version take a resetter and enter a portal before leaving when he hears Mobius calling his name. He mulls over his alternatives. Loki is yelled at to wait while Mobius and Ep.15 chase after him. Loki gives him a brief glance before entering the portal. I'm going to need Loki to agree that I am the superior Loki. He has everything planned out, and this variety is a feminine version of him. When Loki, Mobius, and Ep.15 arrived on the scene, nothing faltered. She obviously anticipated this happening. Loki, I'm sure, is just as interested in what the variation has in store for us. What is she after if she doesn't want to be a timekeeper, I wonder? Thank you for watching.